2:47 p.m., December 18, 1944, near Bastogne, Belgium. A bitter Ardennes wind whipped the snow into sideways sheets. In an M4 Sherman tank called Missouri Belle, Private First Class Dale Hutchkins peered through the gunner's sight. Less than a mile ahead, a Tiger tank was a monument of death, its long 88mm gun swiveling deliberately toward them. Silence filled the crew compartment. The intercom just hissed with breathing. The whisper of inevitability came from Sergeant Bill Cordell, the commander. "Dale, if that Tiger fires first, we're dead." A Tiger's front armor was 100mm of solid, unyielding German steel. At no range could the Sherman's 75mm gun penetrate it head-on. Yet Hutchkins, a 22-year-old Nebraska farm mechanic with only 7 weeks in combat, was about to achieve what Army manuals deemed impossible: kill a Tiger from the front. The simple, cruel, unsolved question haunted every Allied tanker that winter of 1944. Why were American Shermans being annihilated by Tigers, even when outnumbering them 10-1? It wasn't a lack of courage or training. The problem was physics. A Tiger's 80mm gun could kill a Sherman from over a mile away. A Sherman's gun could not scratch the Tiger's frontal plate at half that distance. But within weeks, one farm boy's simple, illegal modification would completely flip that equation. By mid-December 1944, Tiger tanks had cost the U.S. 9th Armored Division 43 Shermans. Over 200 men were casualties. Each encounter fit the same grim pattern. Tiger sees Sherman. Tiger shoots. Sherman burns. The M4 Sherman was the American Armored Forces workhorse. It was cheap, fast, and easy to manufacture. Nearly 50,000 were produced between 1942 and 1945. At the Detroit Arsenal tank plant's peak, one rolled out every 38 minutes. This production efficiency had a price: thin armor, an underpowered gun, and a high profile. The Tiger I, by contrast, was king of the battlefield. 57 tons of precision German engineering, its 88mm KWK 36L56 gun could incinerate a Sherman at 2,000 yards. It wasn't just that the Tiger's armor was thick, it was metallurgically superior. Advanced heat-treating methods hardened it, which Allied industry found difficult to copy. Doctrine against such superiority was clear. Avoid frontal contact, flank, call for air support, or wait for tank destroyers. In Bastogne, however, surrounded by the German 5th Panzer Army, no air support or tank destroyers were coming. There was only cold, fear, and burning Shermans. Dale Hutchkins shouldn't have been there. He was a tractor mechanic on his father's Nebraska farm before the war. He was fascinated by how metal bent and fractured under stress. Knowledge gained not from books, but from broken plowshares and worn crankshafts. He wasn't the hero type, neither loud nor reckless. He was just observant. After seeing tank after tank incinerated, he began thinking like a mechanic, not a soldier. On December 16th, doing maintenance in sub-zero weather, Hutchkins saw a pattern. When his gunner missed a Tiger, they never knew precisely where the shot hit. There were no micro-adjustment markings on the Sherman's gun sight. Every shot was a guess. He recalled his father's welding torch, how heat exposed steel's weaknesses. Then, a flash of inspiration struck him. If you could see your shell's exact impact point and adjust fast, you could hit the same spot multiple times. Repeated stress, fracture, penetration. That night, by a generator's dim flicker, Hutchkins found 4 lengths of baling wire in a supply crate. He welded them to the Sherman's gun mantlet in a cross pattern: upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right. The muzzle flash from firing would momentarily light up the wires, making a glowing frame for the gunner to track impacts and adjust with precision. It was a field-made reference grid, ingenious and illegal. Regulations strictly banned unauthorized modifications to combat vehicles. The punishment was up to 5 years in military prison. Hutchkins didn't care. He wasn't attempting to rewrite doctrine. He was attempting to survive. Sergeant Cordell and Corporal Samuel Blake, the gunner, found the modification at dawn. Cordell frowned. "You welded wire to my tank?" "Not to it," Hutchkins said. "For it." He explained his theory. 3 shots on the same spot might fracture even a tiger's armor. Cordell paused. Then, grinning wryly, "Fine, Nebraska. We'll try your farmer science." Outside Bastonia at 2:47 p.m., their chance came. A tiger appeared in a field 400 yards away. Blake fired. The shell hit high and right. For a split second, the wire frame glowed red. He corrected his aim, fired again, hit low and left. The third shot, at the same aim point, penetrated. The tiger stopped dead. Smoke poured from its turret. This was the first documented frontal kill of a tiger by a Sherman. They repeated it on another tiger minutes later. 2 kills, 0 losses. The stupid wire trick had worked. By December 20th, 14th Shermans in the 9th Armored Division had copied the modification. Follow-up shot accuracy improved dramatically. Engagement times fell by over 50%. A crewman later wrote in his diary, "We began calling it the farmer's grid. If you didn't have it, you were naked." In the following major engagement near Bastogne, the division's Shermans took out 8 tigers, losing only 2 of their own. The ratio was flipped. It was a battlefield miracle, born not of engineering but of improvisation. By early January 1945, over 60 Shermans in the 3rd Army had the wire grid installed. On January 8th, the 37th Tank Battalion's commander, Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, personally inspected the modified tanks. Abrams was a realist who had lost men to tigers. Seeing the results, he ordered the modification standardized for his battalion and gave Hutchkins an on-the-spot promotion. He remarked simply, "You can't teach courage, but you can weld genius." The irony of Hutchkins's invention was its solution to a problem that billions of dollars in American industry had not managed to solve. Factories in Detroit and Lima built tanks faster than anyone in history, 2,000 Shermans monthly at peak output. Speed, however, was not a substitute for precision. The Germans made fewer tanks, only 1,350 Tigers in total, but each was an over-engineered masterpiece. The Allies compensated with numbers, coordination, and air power, not with fire control innovation. What Hutchkins did on that frozen Belgian field was bridge the gap. He provided the Sherman with something it always lacked: feedback. His wire grid allowed gunners to correct aim by inches, not by guesses. 3 shots became a calculated procedure instead of blind hope. The Sherman was turned from prey into a hunter. By February 1945, the modification had propagated to multiple divisions. Reports credited it with reversing the tiger-kill ratios all across Western Europe. In March, General George S. Patton, the 3rd Army commander, inspected the system himself. He mandated its installation on all operational Shermans. Over 800 tanks had the wire grid by April 1945. The U.S. Ordnance Department eventually studied the design, validating its effectiveness. Yet when the paperwork was filed, something was missing. Official documentation credited field modifications by unit maintenance personnel, erasing the man who made it possible. Lieutenant Colonel Abrams protested, but his report was buried by bureaucracy. When Hutchkins heard about it, he reportedly said, "Names don't stop shells, steel does. That's enough." The wire trick saved more than just Sherman crews. It proved innovation is born from desperation, not in laboratories or command tents. Every inch of the frozen battlefield near Bastogne was a graveyard for doctrine. What survived was not the official strategy, but the insight of a Nebraska farm boy who knew that even the hardest steel will break under repeated stress. By the war's end, the U.S. Army had destroyed more German tanks than any other Allied force. Buried under those statistics, however, is the quiet ingenuity of men like Hutchkins, those who welded survival onto the machine. Dale Hutchkins returned to Nebraska when the war was over. He resumed fixing tractors, There were no medals, no headlines. But each time he struck a glowing welding bead, he must have recalled that day near Bastogne, when some wire scraps turned a losing fight into legend. Because sometimes the smartest ideas seem stupid right up until they save your life.